business about records and the cloud.
Yes, it's the way that accounting's moving, and we've just had a major bank in New Zealand actually take a 17% stake in a cloud accounting provider. So that's a big vote of confidence for that provider.
Tell me about the cloud, because I'm over 65.
Basically, it's like storage on a server somewhere in the world. So you've got 3 or 4 servers that all sort of connect to each other, and all your data sits there rather than on your own computer at home.
So this is like backing up.
Yeah, it's sort of, but it's actually stored elsewhere. So you don't do anything on your computer. You just go onto the internet, and it's all done on their server. Your computer just is a sort of like a portal, really, into that world.
First thing that comes to my mind is security, or access being gained by people who shouldn't.
Yeah, that's very, very low risk. They've got a lot of security behind it. It gets tested all the time. You know, it's really well locked down. It would take a very, very clever hacker to get in there.
Yeah.
And then what they get may be useless anyway.
So, but you're able to retrieve it?
Yeah, we can, if it's in the cloud, so we can sit in our office and the farmer can sit on their farm, the bank can sit at the bank, and we can all work together and just look at the same data at the same time. So you don't have to try and arrange everyone to get on the farm or into an office together. You can all just sit there on the phone and conference call and look at the same data. It's a great thing.
Yes, I mean, we have actually come a long way since you started in it as a chartered accountant even.
Oh yeah, it's a big difference now. We can do a lot more than what we used to, especially with this sort of solution. And you know, if the farmers run their own software in the cloud and they make a mistake, instead of us having to go out to them or them come in with their laptop, computer, or whatever, they just ring us up and we can deal with it on the phone there and then.
Are you putting budgets and that sort of things through there?
Yep, you can do budgets. This solution that the bank's invested in is a real-time financial modeller. So you can get in there and forecast what your results are going to be based on the past, etc. So there's a lot of solutions like that, and it's brilliant. It gives us an opportunity to actually see what's going on.
Now that leads me straight into records and how important records are.
Yes. Now for most farmers, they probably just keep them for tax. But in the current climate, we're talking to a lot of ours and saying, look, is that really the only need now? Or should you be looking at actually going to the decision-making type model where you're keeping them to see where you're at and where you're actually heading? A lot of them just sort of throw them in a box or a file, bring it in and then find out what the results are at the end of the tax year. But with prices, etc., then you need to get ahead. So we're saying, right, let's tidy out your records, work out what you need, and get some systems in place.
I suppose with modern computers and all that sort of thing, you can change a budget, for example, daily if you need to, depending on the amount of grain or milk or meat and the prices thereof.
Yeah, you do, and we actually are doing monthly meetings with a few of our farmers, and we're changing it like that. So we're saying, right, where are you at now? Is this still going to be where you're going to be in the future? And we just adapt the figures to suit where they're heading. So if we make a decision and it's going to completely change the way the farm was operating, then we'll budget that in and take out the old costs and put the new in, etc. So it's quite a fluid sort of thing. You can't stick to a rigid budget, especially if you're making decisions in the direction that you're heading.
And we've talked about it before, but your budget should reflect the reality, not what you'd hope for.
Most definitely, yeah. If we have a farmer that comes to us and he says, this is what I think I'm doing, and he's never ever done it in the past, we're going to have a serious conversation, say, look, you've never done it. What makes you think you're going to do it now? Let's look at what you really are achieving and start at that as sort of a point. We can have this as a dream, but it's not the reality.
It's like selling a bottle of wine for what it owes you, not what it's worth.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
With these budgets, though, it's a case of watching very, very closely. I mean, a lot of guys have lost a whole lot of grass seed, for example.
Yep, you should be at least monthly sitting down and looking at what you actually were compared to your budget and seeing where the differences are. Those differences are the things you've got to investigate. So if you're well over budget on an expense, for example, you've got to see why. Get in there and see if there's a reason why. Is it just because you got out of control and started spending, or was there an actual need for it? So yeah, and that's the sort of process we're going through at the moment. We're saying, right, let's look at every line of the budget, where you're at, how far over or under you are.
And you guys do graphs for people, don't you?
Yeah, we graph all sorts of things for them. So we can graph exactly where their income's heading, where and what the budget will be. Bank balances, for example, we're graphing that for them because that's quite a good way to present where they're going to end up. Because you have your high and low points, and so we're looking to see where those low points are and how low they actually are. Because that can be quite a costly point if you get well into overdraft.
IRD, they do pop in.
Yes, they do.
And you've got a few things, because they only pop in if there's a bit of smoke, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So there's a few things you can do to sort of stop them coming in. The first thing is actually declare all your income.
Yeah, well, that's an obvious.
Yeah, you'd think so, but there's things like, you kill livestock on the farm for your own consumption. No one ever puts, or very few put that down as an income item, but it has to be down.
Because it's an expense that's been saved.
It's a personal. So you've killed an animal to eat personally, so that's something the farm's missed out on. So you've got to compensate the system for it effectively.
Whew,
Yeah,
that's a bit scary.
Yeah, but it's if you're killing 20, 30 animals a year.
Oh yeah,
It adds up pretty quick.
That's more than Yoni's disease, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first one. The second one is actually keep your receipts.
Yep.
If IRD do come knocking, it's on you to prove that you had a valid expense and it was deductible. They can turn around and say, no, it's not. And if you haven't got a receipt, well, you're on pretty thin ice to actually make it claimable.
Yep.
So,
And all these different things, I mean, a jet boat is not a pump. Well, it
No.
is, but it's not.
no, it's definitely not. But people still try it. And, swimming pools are not there for firefighting protection. These are sort of arguments you get. So that's one of the things you've got to watch, is actually make sure you're not going over the top with what you're claiming. There is some grey areas, but don't go outside those. If you start arguing, your jet boat or your pool, you are liable to sort of drag attention to yourself.
And we keep saying, don't we, so regularly that IRD aren't fools, and they know basically what returns and margins anybody in business should be.
any business they know about. For farmers, they know when the high and low years are. So if a lot of farmers are sort of having for example, a high point, and you're reporting losses, there'll be questions on your file as to why, because that would be outside the norm.
And as you said, if 30 sheep die with a knife rather than of natural causes, they're going to be onto that as well.
Exactly, yeah, and it stands out because when we do our end of year livestock reconciliations, we've got to make these adjustments to deaths and killed, etc. So you can't just hide it. It does come out in the wash.
Big advice: talk to your chartered accountant.
Most definitely, yep. If you're uncertain on anything, that's your first port of call.
And even if you're not, even if you do think you're okay, still double check.
Yes.
Indeed, Kerry. Thank you very much indeed.